क्लियर देख लो।
Once said, be the change you wish to see in the world. Good evening, everyone. I am Manshi Belwar. I'm going to be your host for this session. On behalf of Setu team and entire Little Scholars fraternity, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all dignified schools participating, respected teachers, and fellow friends. Also, would like to welcome our dynamic co-founder, owner Bhalla ma'am, the founder of Setu, Pankaj Bhalla sir, Rohit Bhalla sir, and our guide and mentor, our principal ma'am, Mrs. Shikha Gautam. I would also like to welcome our panelists for today's event, Ms. Sania Malhotra and Mr. Lokesh Ghai. In the last workshop, we discussed about the usage of various items, benefits of paper pen, how to make handmade paper, segregation of unavoidable waste, as well as how to make cleaners from natural ingredients. Moving forward, I would like to welcome you all to this third workshop, where classes 9 to 12, the group A, is engaging in a common goal, claps for scraps. Today in this session, we will be learning about types of plastic, recycling, and DIY with waste. Not taking much time here, I would pass on the session to these illustrious panelists. All yours, Sanya, ma'am, and Lokesh, sir.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much for that. I hope you're having a nice Sunday. I know this is weekend for you and you all probably are not very excited about a call, but I will try to keep it short, very interesting and very interactive so that it feels more like a fun group activity you're doing than a call. Just give me 1 second to share my screen. ठीक है. The DIY thing, just a raise of hands would be good. Did you get time to research? Did you talk to each other? Does it seem interesting? Are you excited? Yes. Are you all chilling on the Saturday? Okay, let's start. So, we had ended yesterday with how we can avoid waste in the first place. We talked about avoidable things, we talked about unavoidable things. We realized that sometimes you can make things on your own and avoid plastic, but sometimes you just have to buy the plastic. We also talked about disposables, how one of you was going to buy a shake and it would have been easier if you had taken your glass. How when we go out to eat street food, it's easier to take your own fork than to take the plastic fork. All of these little things are avoiding plastic, but sometimes it's completely unavoidable. And what do we do with that? So before we get on to how you deal with it, we need to understand what plastic is. So even Einstein says that before you jump into solving a problem, you should spend maximum amount of time, like if you have 1 hour, spend maximum 55 minutes thinking about the problem, researching the problem, understanding the problem. And once you know the problem well, it will not take you much time to come up with the solution. So let's get into the depths of what plastic is, and then we'll try to see what we need to do about it. Okay, so first, minimize this, thank you. You must have seen these symbols now on different things that you buy. If you turn the dabba around, or if you flip it and you go to the bottom of a container, you'll always see one of these symbols. So let's start with the easiest one. This is widely recycled, which means that almost 75% of that particular material is recycled. So you can give it to your kabadi wala, you can give it to your recycling center without it giving it a second thought. Usually all types of plastic are not recyclable. This Mobius loop, that's the second one, this is usually there on a plethora of things, but just because it's there does not mean it can be recycled. This symbol essentially means that this material has the capacity to be recycled, but if it's recycled in your area or not, nobody can say for sure. You need to do your in between this with a percentage. That means that amount, so if it says 50%, it means that bottle has been made of 50% recycled material. So every symbol has like a different connotation. It might seem that everything is saying, oh, I can be recycled, but that's not true. Sure, this bottle maybe can be recycled, but what if it's not? That is the property of this material, but based on my context, based on my city, based on the functions that are there, the factories that are there in my city, maybe it's not recycled in my area and it will end up in the landfill, correct? So this is not something you depend on per se. The green dot, this is there mostly on some fancier brands, and this also usually people tend to think that okay, this green dot is there, so this is going to be recycled, but it means that the company that is making it is spending some amount of funds in recycling. Like if there are companies that are working towards recycling or to prevent reduce carbon footprint, they're giving some financial amount of aid to that in order to negate their carbon footprint and waste footprint of sorts. It has no direct implication of the fact that that object can be recycled. So it's just telling you about the company and what they believe in, and okay, they're trying to care about the environment, but nothing other than that. Now this one, this is extremely common. If you have anything next to you right now, anything plastic, you open, like either you turn it around, like if you can see my camera, you turn it around and you see it on the back, or you see it at the bottom. Sometimes it's at the top. And if you open the cap, if it has a cap, it'll be there inside as well. So this basically is telling you the reason of plastic. So plastic is what? It is a chemical. It is a man-made thing. We made it, correct? But every type of plastic is different. Why does everything so we need to know what is what and what's the difference. Before we go on, I want to show of hands to know how many of you do know about this so that I'll know how much detail to get into. Know about the classification of plastic. Okay. Green defenders do. 2 people, 3 people. Okay, can one of you unmute your mics and tell us a little bit? Anybody can volunteer or I have to pick? Maybe Team Earthlings. Anybody from your
Good
team?
evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Ma'am, plastic is a material which is made up of fossil fuels as well as harmful substances.
Okay.
And ma'am, ma'am, you told about that you can recycle it, but I believe wherever I have searched, it's about only 14% of plastic is recycled which we produce in our
Exactly.
environment.
Right.
So it's not good. It's only there if we'll stop producing it or producing it as less as we can or reuse it because recycling cannot be done at much level.
Perfect. That is great. Team Mind Benders. I haven't seen you guys. Can somebody, one of you, tell me more on this topic? Like you raised your hands about knowing.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Ma'am, plastic is a polymer that can be recycled, colored, reused, molded, or drawn into a wires and various other shapes. Because unit of some plastic have a linear arrangement, while some plastic, according to science, while some plastic arrangement like a cross-linked polymer. So that I hope we can recycle it. Because some are having a linear arrangement and some are having like cross-linked polymer.
Correct, correct. Getting into the science of it. So let's try to make this easier for everybody. You guys have a fair idea of what plastic is, but what I'm trying to get into is the fact that okay, there are 7 types of plastic. Like all plastics in the world can be categorized into these. मतलब आप लोग chemistry पढ़ रहे हो, so I'm sure you know that every chemical, every material component has a different composition, and that's how it is named, right? So in the same way, plastic also has certain properties, certain features because of the chemicals. I mean, because of the chemical composition that it has. So these are the resin types. This is 1 to 7. You can find it very easily on anything next to you. We start with 1 and 2 because these are extremely common, right? 1 is PET, which is, I have to go back in a second. The first one is PET, which is polyethylene. This is basically your Coke bottles, any kind of transparent plastic that is good quality is usually PET. This is easily recyclable. And in 2012 or something, Colombia actually did a research, and India is one of the top countries where PET is recycled to the max. This is because of the informal waste management system that we have. There's a very abundant interlinked group of kabadiwalas, which are then connected to smaller retailers, or then connected to bigger management companies, or then connected to factories. There's a full cycle. So they can sell this for like 15 rupees a kg, depending on the type of PET, of course. Mostly it's around this range only, and they get money for it. So every time you do have to buy a water bottle, although you should take your own bottle, but some bottle you not need to get water, right? Keep that bottle, don't throw it in the dustbin, separate it out, keep a separate bag or something in your house that you can keep all these transparent bottles in, and you can give it to the kawadi, right? That is good, it's doable, it's easy. But the important point here is when we say recycling, we assume in our mind that जब ये bottle हम फेंक देंगे, ये bottle exactly यही bottle बन के वापस आ जाएगी, and then that this process is infinite. But that's not true. This process is infinite only for glass. Even for PET and HDPE, both in fact, it's only limited to a number of times. Say, depending on the faculty you're in, like the industrial faculty that there is, the technology that's there, the money that people are putting into it. So some people say it's 2 times, some people say it's 5 times. In any situation, after say 2 or 3 times of it being a bottle, mostly it's only two, it is downcycled. Downcycling basically means that this is an object of a particular caliber price worth. I will not be able to explain what material we're also using it, but this does. So this is carpets, the nylon threads that are there, jackets, all of these thready things. Basically, it's cut down into a smaller, lesser stable resin. So that's what it is used for. Second type that we do is HDP. Now, something that has either one of these reasons. And then once you're done, raise your hands. Any of these, you will find at least one thing. The intention is that you are able to understand how to read the reason, and then we'll also figure out what can be done with it. It's 4:21, so take 2 minutes. Uh, let's start talking again at 23. Team Eco Warriors, what did you find? Tell everybody. Somebody. Thank you. Oh, am I still not audible? I just read the chat. Hello.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Take care. You guys find something? Quickly, then move on. You can also just drop it in the chat box. Let's just everybody drop it in the chat box.
Mom, actually your voice was breaking. Can you please repeat the question?
Sure. So go around your room, try to find any plastic object and see the reason that it has written under it. Like take the bottle, flip it around. Of plastic it is. If you find anything that's HDPE or PET, then just drop it here in the chat box.
I saw a plastic box and I found PET written at the back of it.
Perfect. So it's a transparent thing, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay. Cold drink bottle. Great. What else? Let's take 3 more.
I found a postal bottle. I
I
found
found PET.
written below
It's what?
it.
Got it. Oil bottle, PET. Hair oil bottle, okay. Crayon box, great. You'll realize that all of these things that usually have PET on them now are transparent, because that's the feature of the razor. So it's very easy for you to, like when you go shopping now next time. One easy hack that you can do is you have to buy shampoo. Let's assume you have to buy shampoo. You are not being able to find a shampoo bar that's packaged in a paper, and you have to buy plastic. An easy thing you can do is, instead of buying something that has PP written on it, which is another reason which we'll discuss further, you find something that has PET written on it. Of course, you look for the brand you want and the features you want in the shampoo. That is all okay. But often the same brand also has two different types of packaging. With this simple step, you can ensure that at least this piece of plastic will be recycled and not dumped into the land, right? This is what I'm trying to get at. Like even your crayon boxes, the brand that you have probably is PT, but there'll be two other brands that are made of PP, and PP is not recyclable. Now, HDPE is also recyclable, not as like it's not as popular for India like PET is, because PET is one of the leading people for recycling it, but it is still very, very nicely recycled. Sometimes after that it is recycled. And this is colored. It's almost always colored. It's a good quality, strong, stable thing. Um, Coconut oil, parachute oil, HDPE. If usually the ढक्कन्स of normal PET bottles are also HDPE. If you have the red ढक्कन of the Coke thing, that's all of these things are
It's cracking a lot.
recyclable. The only thing you have to do is remove the wrapper that's there on the bottle, because that is a completely different plastic. These reasons only how it can be recycled. So if you give like a full bottle to somebody, they will have to separate out the cover, separate out the ढक्कन, and separate out the bottle. If you do that, it makes things easier. Even if you don't, somebody else will do it for you. But you should just uh, know it, because once you're collecting things separately, it becomes easier to know what to collect how. Next one is PVC. So PVC is not something we come across very naturally in our daily lives. It's those pipes that are used to that are inside the house for electricals, also for plumbing, also when you put a tube light, there's that C-shaped thing behind the tube light, that is PVC. Packets for medicines, those are PVC. The flooring tiles that come of that, it's recyclable, but it's not very relevant in our daily life, so we're not going to dwell a lot on this. The fourth type is LDPE. So LDPE and HDPE, basically the only difference between the two is high density, low density. Anything that gets crushed, usually it's low density. Anything that is strong and stable like water will be HDPE. Both of them are colored, so they're not going to be transparent per se. LDPE is a Maggie packet, दूध के packet. All of these things that are very soft plastics to touch, right? Those are all low density polymers, and they are also recyclable. So what you can do essentially is separate these out from the different type of plastic. Keep them in a bundle. If you give a bundle to somebody, they can actually earn money off of it, and they will take it and try to get it recycled. If you give them, 10 packets of milk, they can't do anything with it. They're not going to get any money for it from a recycling center, and that's why they're not going to take it from you, and it will end up in a landfill. So this is where we will have to do the effort, but this is also not there in every city in India. So you will have to ask somebody in your locality. Maybe there's a scrap dealer near your house, and you can ask him that if I give you a kg, at least a kg of this, would you take it? Which means if he says yes, it means he is getting some money for it, which means that it is being recycled. If he says no, then there is no scope of this being recycled in your place. There are several organizations that actually do pickups also. You can just Google them and you will have a list. I can also send you a link. But this does get a lot of effort. It's always better to avoid plastic as a whole, or find the ones that are recycled in your neighborhood. Next one is PP. Now, PP is the most common type of plastic, and it is also something that cannot be recycled. It is extremely cheap to make. That's why it's more popular. It can be transparent and it can be colored. It can be super soft. It can be super hard. So that's why it's overtaking PET and HDPE in some ways because of the cost. But because it's so low quality, recycling it is very difficult. It's very rare that you will find somebody in India recycling PP. So, but it's very prominent. That's why I was saying that when you go buy something out of plastic, there's a high probability it's going to be PP, but make the conscious decision of choosing reason 1 or reason 2. There are some things that cannot be replaced at all, like yogurt containers. There are some kinds of furniture, insulation materials. All of these are always going to be PP, like things that are used in clothes. But whenever there's an alternative, use that. Otherwise, let's go ahead with this. Polystyrene is the 6th type, which is not recyclable at all. It is extremely unstable in the chemical composition of it. CDs, the takeout cups, styrofoam cups, all of these things are a polystyrene. Some examples so that you know what we're talking about. None of this is recyclable, and it's also very unnecessary. Most of these things are single use products. So there's really no point of so much effort being put into you using something for 2 minutes. So this is something you should completely avoid rather than trying to find alternatives. And the last one is basically all of the types of plastic that don't come under this category because they're very varied then. I mean, there'll be 10%, 2%, 5%, 6% like that. So they've clubbed it up into this one category, which is also not recyclable at all because it's all sometimes a mixture of 2, 3 materials. We'll get onto that further, but these random materials that you buy that you can't figure out, okay, what kind of plastic this is. When you have a question in your mind, it's usually number 7 because it's very easy to now identify PET, HDP, LDP, right? And PP you can read directly from the bottom. One very important category within this number 7 is MLP. So MLP is basically multi-layered plastic. Now think about all the waste that you mapped out. How many of them were wrappers? Like how many of them had like an aluminium or a silvery thing in the back and a printed thing on the outside? Or they probably had a paper on the outside and a plastic on the inside. Okay, I can see 2 people. You can also drop it in the chat box if you remember something in particular. Lots of people, great. Okay, right. So you do understand what I'm talking about. I'll take this question before. Not an unstable chemical per se. So it's not like if there is some food inside, it will be affected, but there is some the food containers that you get now when you order food online, the black box that you get, say example from KFC, if you heat it, when you heat a raisin, the chemical property changes. So then you might have a problem with the food and it might get tainted, but that also depends on the type of plastic container that you have. But essentially, in the way that it's packaged, it does not affect anything unless you subject it to other type of energies, right? You probably put it in the fridge, you put it in the microwave, all of these things. So that's separate. So, okay, lots of you know what MLP is. Essentially, this means that as the name suggests, multi-layered plastic. The most common form is in between. In this
This is from Team Setu. I think Sanya ma'am is facing some connectivity issues. We are trying to resolve. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Sanya ma'am is reconnecting. Kindly wait for another minute.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
I am so sorry, I have extremely bad internet connection. I anyways have a very short activity planned for you guys, like a 10-minute thing. So I will figure out the internet by then. Before that, I'm going to continue with my screen off, okay, because net is bad. So screen sharing off, yes. So as I was saying, we were talking about MLP, correct? So it's is these layers. Right now, there is no way to recycle it, because what happens is, as I said, every type of plastic is recycled separately. Every material is recycled separately. There are separate faculties for everything. So if there is a material that has aluminium and paper and colored plastic and transparent plastic, essentially I will have to separate out all of them, then send them to the respective facilities, and then they will be recycled. So this process is really energy intensive and also expensive, and hence nobody does it. There is no way potentially to recycle it at the moment. Lots of people use it for lots of people, lots of countries have these places where they actually burn it in a way that is not extremely harmful to the environment to convert it into energy. There is one that's being set up in Dehradun, which I think will be closest, and there are a few in Bangalore, Pune, all of these places. They're called waste to energy plants. So that is one way, but it's not the most sustainable or the most efficient way. The best is, of course, to avoid these as a whole, because composites are extremely difficult to recycle. But what is happening now is the same thing that we were discussing initially. The fact that people are trying to take things into their own hands. There are some companies that are trying to use this to create something useful. So this is not technically recycling. It's considered reusing, because recycling is breaking it down and then converting it into the same material again. So we're reusing it for a different purpose. And there is a brand that is called Recharkha, also Eco Curry. What they do is they take these these chip packets, atta packets, all of this, and they cut them into really thin strips like a yarn. They basically make like a yarn out of it, like there is that the thread, and that they use in a charkha, and they make bags out of it, they make pouches out of it, they make covers out of it. All of these little things they started to do. So it's a small village next to Pune, and they've set up this whole factory. It's given employment to a lot of people. They have waste coming in from all over the country now, and people send them boxes and boxes of waste, and they convert it into something usable. So this is one very good example of what people are doing. Now what I want you to do is take 10 minutes. It's 41. We'll meet back at 50, so 9 minutes. You can do this in teams and quickly come up with 2-3 ways in which people all over the world are using MLP, or the types of plastic that cannot be recycled, basically the number 7. How and what they're doing with it, because I know that there are 3 more things that are actually happening. And if you quickly do a research, you'll also be able to tell me this. So let's meet back in 9 minutes and do this. I'll figure out the internet connection and start screen sharing again. Till then, hands up if this works.
Ma'am, please repeat the question.
Just look on the internet in groups, do a very quick research about what ways MLP can be reused. What are people doing with it? Like I gave you this example now of people making bags out of it, making a yarn out of it. What else can potentially be done as a solution? Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I will see you guys in 9 minutes. Three, 4 minutes more, guys. And if you're done before that, let me know. Team Mind Vendors, you raised your hand.
Yes, ma'am. This is Ritika this side. I researched about how multi-layer plastic can be recycled, and I found a few ways.
Hmm.
Can I Ma'am, other than what you told about the charkha, I found that the plastic industry invested in a technology to recycle MLP, converting the MLP waste into granules, which can be further used for making chairs, benches,
Lovely.
pallets,
Lovely. So
etc.
they're basically converting the MLP into smaller granules, and those granules can be given to any industry to make whatever they want, correct?
I also found other ways.
Yeah.
A company named Trashcon invented a technology to convert MLP coming from the houses, streets, and landfills into an alternative of plywood, which is further used in making beds, tables, etc.
Okay.
And other is that it can also be mixed with bitumen for making the roads. So it can be used in road construction.
Understood. Take it. Team Green Goblins, do you have anything else other than she's talked about how it's converted into furniture, how it's converted into pellets, and how you can use it to make roads.
Yes, like in that floating margins to transfer the materials and which is made from MLPs only.
That again, I couldn't catch you. Sorry.
Certain industries use certain cartons, which is made up of these MLPs only.
Right. Okay. Good note. You.
मैं बोल दूं प्लास्टिक रोड
Yes.
क्या है
Yes.
Anji.
Ma'am, I found out that Maharashtra Pollution Control Board has also started recycling MLP, and they have processed it as fuel.
Processing it as fuel. So that is basically waste to energy. The same plantations that I was talking about now, they're using it to yeah. Great.
May I add something?
Sure, sure.
It doesn't exactly have a name, but there are
मैम
certain
nowadays
One by
there
one.
are certain people. Okay.
Go ahead. You continue.
There are certain people. So what they do is they don't exactly recycle the plastic. They take, so for example, there's a water bottle. So they cut off the important parts. For example, they cut off the funnel-like structure, the the top, and keep the bottom and whatever they think is useful. And they use all the other things that they found. For example, they there are a lot of water bottles. So they take the other up the upper funnel like structure and they join it, or they don't exactly use any chemical processes, but they just put it together to form something new. For example, with a group of bottles, they maybe form a stool or something like that.
Understood. So that is also reusing. That is not recycling, because recycling means converting it into the same material, correct? So this becomes an example of reuse. Like it's like a craft. It's like a do it on your own thing, which is great. Which is something we can do at a personal level. So that's actually very, very nice.
Also,
Everybody who's raised their hands, any of you found anything other than furniture, pellets, roads, energy, DIYs, anything else? I see somebody.
Ma'am, may I?
Yeah, please.
Ma'am, I have found one of our company in India only, which is in Ghaziabad, China Eco Unified India Private Limited. Ma'am, who is working by reusing that plastic, converting it into the tiles in flooring. Flooring
Nice.
they were using.
That is
And
so
one
nice.
and one more lady, which is Veena, who is Veena. She is known as Waste Queen in Maharashtra. She is just converting that waste material, and she's taking contracts from the government to building the roads, constructing the roads.
Okay. So I think most of us have understood that even though there is no absolute way to, like they say that okay, MLP cannot be recycled, but people have made this active effort of doing something or the other into use, right? So nothing that they say is, oh, this cannot be recycled, this cannot be done. All of these things are not true, because if you want to put in an effort, you can do something and send it to people that you just found out about. You can send it to Ecokari, you can send it to Shunya Tiles, or there's another person who's making pellets, the Shakti one. Lots of these people are collecting this MLP in a clean, you wash it out, clean it, give them a carton, and they take it. But it's a long process. It requires you to courier and so on and so forth. Something super easy that actually one of you also found out, I'm very happy that you did, is doing eco bricks. Now, what are eco bricks? These are essentially bricks that are eco-friendly. It's not. My is on, guys. Thank you. It out, and this solution actually needs to become more popular because it's super easy to do. You can do something individually, you can do something in small groups, you can actually change the way things look. You take a bottle and you take all this MLP that you have, cut it down into smaller pieces and start stuffing it into the bottle. So every day you're supposed to, even if you don't do it every day, like when I was making it, I used to collect all my waste. Whenever I had it, I used to wash it and dry it and keep it in a corner. So I had one big theli full of more thelis. Every Sunday I used to cut them up while watching some serial and put them into the bottle and stuff it. The main aim is that you don't leave air voids in it and you make it very compact and tight. With one leg and it doesn't compress. That is how strong it should be, because essentially it needs to be as strong as a brick, which means that if you stack them, they don't get crushed. Like a khali bottle will get crushed. So that the aim is to not do that and stuff as much things as you can. 250 to 300 grams is the ideal weight of a 1 liter bottle if you fill it. And after every 5-6 bits that you put on, just press it with a stick, any stick that you can find in your house.
Seriously, ma'am, it's a good idea. Through this, we can make so many things.
People are actually making full walls out of these. This is a way where you can make it with mud and cement. This is a way where you don't even need the mud. What you need is just a wire mesh, and you fix the bottle in a like a puzzle-like format. You put a wire mesh on both the sides, and you're done. You literally need to do nothing. Now, of course, this can't be used for a house because the house will be very hot. It will be very flammable. Nobody wants to live in a house of kachra. But for things like boundary walls, things for like guard houses, things thing that you have around trees. All of these little things can be made so quickly with this waste at minimum cost. A lot of NGOs are also collecting these now. So if you want to make them and not do something with them on your own, you can courier 10-12 bottles to these NGOs who are trying to make complete resorts, complete schools out of this. So in Delhi, there is a school that is actually made out of eco bricks. There is a company that's making a resort out of it in Gurgaon. So there's a lot of things happening. It's just about us making an effort. We'll see a very
Due to bad weather conditions, Sanya ma'am is facing some connectivity issues. We'll get back within a minute.
Hello. Hi, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I am so sorry. I have really bad internet. There's no electricity in my house, and I'm having to do it with the hotspot, and that's why everything is going bad. Right. So quickly, just wrapping up, these are some things that you can actually do with completely basic. You are free to go crazy with it. Some people use tape to wrap it up. Some people use ropes to wrap it up and cover the entire thing so it looks like a normal stool. You can also use a hot tube, but they will not be as nice as your imagination. It'll be very, very nice if you're creative. You of course need to do it in groups. You of course need to make sure that this eventually goes into a bottle and eventually using it for something. But right now, the challenge would be that you won't have a lot of eco bricks, because although it seems easy, filling up eco brick with a lot of waste is a huge process. So you probably have to go to your neighbors, go to your other friends, classmates, ask them to collect their waste, give them to you so you can make some number of eco bricks, combine with other groups, make, and if you want to make a game board, you stool, you want to make a bench. There are lots of things you can do. I've just put in a few ideas because I want you to think about it on your own. But once you've made this, let's display this also. So the final presentation day that you have, how you made it, you can map out your process, you can make a time lapse, you can upload it on YouTube, or you can upload it on Instagram. Waste is not waste. Everything that people say, okay, this can't be recycled, this can't be done, this is bad. Everything can be made well if we use it nicely. Plastic as a material is not bad. You can do anything with it and it will stay good. The bad part is that we don't use it enough. If we're able to put it to use through this tarika, then we have a wall that will stay perfectly fine through storm and thunder for hundreds of. Hi, no questions then? We'll wrap up.
Ma'am, please repeat what you have told about final presentation day. It was not audible properly.
Okay. Make eco bricks and try to make something usable for yourself or your classmate or your house with these. You can record the process, make a time lapse, make a presentation of how you landed to it, or just a video, anything, and that project that you do actually make, that is something you exhibit on the final day. It needs to be usable. It needs to be something that's made completely out of waste. It has to be a team effort, and it should be something that doesn't break when somebody sits on it or tries to use it. You need to make it absolutely functional so you actually want to use it, to solve a purpose. Was that audible?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Ma'am, actually, I wanted to say that our school had organized a week ago this EcoBricks activity for the juniors, and I had seen many juniors doing so. Even my brother took part in that activity.
Oh wow, that's lovely. What were you able to make?
Ma'am, actually, our school collected it and gave it to the NGO.
Okay. So this would be taking it a step further. This would be you all collaborating and together trying to make something out of it. Right?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Nice. You have some experience with it. You can help your friends do the same.
Okay, ma'am.
Lovely. Okay, there's a question from Team Green Goblins. If we're saying that putting a ban on plastic would help out, doesn't it mean that we would be promoting expensive and energy extensive? What can you repeat? I mean, be clear about the question. You're saying that if you're putting a ban on plastic, the alternatives would be energy intensive and expensive, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, actually, that's why we're not being able to put the ban. That's why it's not as easy as the government just declaring that single-use plastic is banned, because there is no cheaper alternative. There's no low-effort alternative. That's why we're not being able to stop it in the first place. Even if you think that paper is an alternative, it comes from trees. It is very resource intensive. If you think about glass, it takes a lot of time to make glass. So your point is absolutely correct. That's why what we use, we need to use as efficiently as possible. It's banned, but it's still used because it's cheap. There is no other way. सब्जी वाले जो हम आपको सब्जी बेचते हैं, अगर आप उन्हें बोलो न्यूज़पेपर का पैकेट यूज करो, उनको बैठ के पहले 2 घंटे एवरीडे न्यूज़पेपर की थैली बनाने पड़ेंगे जिसमें सब्जी का वेट भी हैंडल नहीं हो पाएगा, तो पर्पस ही नहीं सॉल्व होगा, तो वो ये क्यों करेंगे? They will think about their convenience, ना? They are not in a position to think about the planet at the moment, so we have to be sensitive to that also. The EcoBrick assignment, yes, it's for the final presentation on 2nd October because it'll take you time to think about it. You'll experiment, you'll break a lot of EcoBricks that you join together because it's tough to get them in the same place. You'll have to find bottles. Please do not buy bottles for this. Use things that you already have. Nothing needs to be bought. Everything has to be waste. Make sure of that. Okay, I think we are done. Team Setu, we can, I think, end this for the day. Oh, there's another question. How many objects can be displayed on the final day? So with the EcoBricks, you'll probably be able to make one thing, whatever that is for you. I'm not going to put words into your mind right now, but one object is for the EcoBrick assignment, and however many things you can make out of the DIY, because that was a separate assignment on its own, right? So the ultimate aim is that you're able to display a plethora of things that are reducing waste, so that come from waste.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Can you please?
Hanji,
Ma'am,
can I repeat?
ma'am, yesterday you told about to make some DIYs of the avoidable items you mentioned in the previous graph.
Yes.
So, ma'am, we have to bring that too on the final day.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay then. Thank you so much. I hope you had fun. I hope this is interesting enough for you guys to do.
Thank you, ma'am and sir. It was indeed an enlightening session. On behalf of entire Setu team and the Scholars Fraternity, I would like to extend a sincere gratitude to all our dedicated panelists for being our pioneer. Thank you, Lokesh sir and Sanya ma'am. Also, an unfeigned thanks to Patron for joining us and making this session a success. As you all are aware, our next workshop is on 26th of September from 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. on the topic Sustainable Textile and Fashion, Introductory Narrative. All there and have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.